positioned Canadians to succeed in the future. One of the areas, of course, is what we've done with taxes. Today, the average Canadian family pays $3,400 less in taxes than they did 8 years ago. We've also reduced the tax burden on our businesses. The small business rate has been reduced. The corporate tax rate has been reduced from 22 to 15%, and we have said we're not raising those taxes because we believe when we take that tax burden off of our job creators, our small, medium-sized enterprise, and our larger companies, that extra money they have available at the end of their fiscal year in most cases gets reinvested back in those companies, which then allows them to create new jobs, employ more workers, and continue to grow our economy. We've also, of course, focused very much on balancing Canada's budget, and we will be the first country within the G7 to balance its budget, and we'll be doing that next year. Again, we're the envy of much of the world because our financial situation is so sound. Our banking system is the safest in the world, and that's been stated regularly over the last 7 years. And then finally, we also want to make sure that we continue to educate Canadians in a manner that's going to allow us to have the trained workforce that we need to allow us to be successful. The irony is, while we still have employment rate across Canada of 6.9%, and where there are still some regions of our country where the rate is higher than that, we also have critical labor shortages in provinces like Alberta, in certain sectors. And those critical labor shortages are suppressing our ability to grow our economy. And so moving forward, our government has a special focus on education, training, matching the training to the jobs that are available, making sure that Canadians, when they go to school, whether it's a trade school, whether they go to university, when they graduate, they're actually coming out with skills which allow them to immediately plug in to the workforce, into some of those high-paying jobs that are out there and that presently go wanting. So in closing, let me say this has been a very informative trip to Vancouver Island for me, to be here in the salmon fishing capital of the world, and to be able to talk about fish and seafood and see how some of our trade initiatives around the world are going to present remarkable opportunities for that sector, as well as for the many other sectors that we're known for in BC, sectors such as forestry and advanced manufacturing and agri-food. We talk about cherries. We're opening up markets for cherries and blueberries. So this is a huge world out there, and we're just starting to tap into those opportunities. So if there are any questions any of you want to raise, please do so now. And then we'll move to the ICI program, that quick announcement.
I just have to ask you some questions.
Sure.
I can ask you at the end. I just need to hold my recorder closer to your face. So.
Sure. Sure, I can do that. Now let's just then go to the...
Well, I just have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you for the announcement. It's with Busan being the second largest gateway port for Asia outside of Shanghai. It's a great opportunity. Now, this is for aquaculture and wild fish and live product as well?
Yeah,
so all aspects of seafood?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, when you say live product, we're talking about freshly caught seafood, frozen,
yep.
Smoked, processed. The agreement with Korea is eliminating tariffs. Some will be completely gone within 5 years, the remainder over the remaining 7 years. So 70% of tariffs on fish and seafood products will be gone within 5 years of the agreement coming into force. And it allows us then to remain competitive with our competitor to the south, the United States, right, which already has a trade agreement with South Korea.
Okay. And you mentioned that you were hoping that this would be a gateway to other free trade agreements, knowing that farm fish products from BC in particular to Japan have been warmly received in the past, but since the Fukushima earthquake and disaster, their need for product has been a little bit more receptive to that product. By having a similar type agreement would certainly close you are and how active you are working on expanding this to possibly hit Japan as well.
Well, Japan, we're already, we've completed 5 rounds of negotiations with Japan, and we are certainly expecting that at some point along the way we'll be able to include those negotiations as well. That's a market that is many times bigger than the Korean market. Japan is the 3rd largest economy in the world. It's one we have to really take seriously. As we negotiate bilaterally with Japan, we're also partners with Japan within the larger Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations. And of course, these negotiations, they sort of move forward in parallel. And you know, when you have 12 partners at the table, it complicates matters because you have different levels of ambition, different levels of economic maturity. You've got Vietnam in there, but you also have the United States, New Zealand, and Australia as partners there. You have Peru as a partner, you have Chile as a partner. So negotiating an outcome that is as ambitious as possible becomes a challenge, but it's a challenge that all of us are prepared to meet. And so I very much look forward to that moving forward. But Japan, of course, is a big, big prize for Canada. And one of the things I've mentioned is that when it comes to countries like Korea and Japan, we obviously have an interest in tapping into those large consumer markets. But those countries also have a real interest in Canada because we offer 2 key things: energy security and food security. And that's why these negotiations with Korea have now concluded, because both sides understood this is a big win-win for us. We expect that will be the case with Japan.
Good, thank you.
So let me just make the announcement on ICI. It's very short, but it's something that, it's one of those good news announcements I get to make once in a while, because the Investment Canada Community Initiative